Monsieur le Commissaire,
United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, dear Filippo Grandi, heads of state and government, ministers, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for France to co-convene the second Global Refugee Forum. The President of the Republic and the Prime Minister asked me to represent them and to reassert France's full commitment alongside you to support refugees. UNHCR was created in the wake of the Second World War to help the millions of persons and orphans in a destroyed Europe. 70 years on, UNHCR is ever more vital. I wish to pay tribute to the exceptional work of the agency and its staff to help millions of persons to survive and to rebuild their lives, having fled from the horror of war. The increased number of armed conflicts has led to more and more persons in exile. More than 110 million persons are now forcibly displaced, and a third of these are refugees. COP28 has agreed on a phase out of fossil fuels to achieve net zero in 2050 as being vital to tackle climate change, an ambition we now need to see translated into reality. I would recall that climate change has had a major adverse effect on migratory flows. The Paris Agreement, launched by the President of the Republic, should allow us to take action to tackle the climate action that we need to do and to tackle poverty. The Global Compact on Refugees gives us a global response, but this response needs to be adapted to each armed conflict. The tyranny of the Syrian regime caused some 13 million persons to flee. They are in Jordan and in Lebanon, who are hosting millions of refugees. The Russian aggression against Ukraine forced the departure of some 8 million Ukrainians, who have had to abandon their homes and leave everything behind to flee from war. In Nagorno-Karabakh, we have seen so many people having to leave their ancestral homes in just a few days following the offensive by Azerbaijan this autumn. In Sudan, we have seen the forced displacement of millions of persons. France shall continue to support UNHCR and has decided over 3 years to triple its financial contribution. This contribution shall be some 120 million euros for 2023, and France shall maintain it at this level in 2024. France is also acting to support Palestinian refugees supported by UNRWA at the International Humanitarian Conference organized by France in Paris. We increased our additional contribution to 100 million euros to provide support to the citizens of Gaza. France, during this conference, called for a sustainable humanitarian truce which would lead to a ceasefire. We must support the countries neighboring on armed conflicts. They are the first concerned in hosting refugees. They need to be able to host them in dignity. This is the spirit of the Global Compact on Refugees, based on burden sharing. We should also offer technical, legal, and organizational support to those states who are developing the right to asylum. France is doing so alongside UNHCR. I'm thinking about Chad in particular. Since April, they have had some 500,000 Sudanese refugees in the country, guaranteeing them protection. France this year devoted 8 million euros to supporting UNHCR to support neighboring countries to Sudan. And OFPRA in France, our asylum agency, is supporting these countries and their offices. We need to combat criminal networks, organized crime, which supports the most vulnerable, those in distress, and condemns them to further poverty, to exploitation, and sometimes to death. I am convinced that we must further mobilize our efforts to eliminate trafficking in human beings. We need judicial proceedings. We need investigations. We need severe sanctions. We need to make sure it is not profitable. France has adopted a new national program to combat trafficking. We must ease the pressure on host countries. Everyone should play their part. France is playing its part. Given the crisis in Afghanistan, we were able to react quickly and to welcome Afghans fleeing from the Taliban. Faced with the Russian aggression against Ukraine, France, as of spring 2022, we were able to host some 100,000 Ukrainians, and 1,000 Ukrainian children are now studying in French schools. France also hosts 3,000 refugees per year in the context of the UNHCR program, and we will keep this commitment up in 2024 and 2025. Dignified hosting means not only finding shelter, but also access to education, to training, to employment. For host countries, we know this is a challenge that we need to rise up to. As soon as refugees arrive in France, they have asylum status, and I'd like to pay tribute to the remarkable work done by our agencies and by civil society organizations working with them. We have several dedicated programs for refugees. We have AGIR, which is ACT, which provides housing and jobs to refugees. And we have a program which teaches refugees French and helps them to have access to vocational training. There are voluntary initiatives for 10,000 young refugees to be able to do civic service, and the FAIR program allows young refugees to meet other refugees who are already well established and to establish links through sport and culture and citizenship. Ladies and gentlemen, in this very difficult context, I wish to shed particular light on the status of women. Women's rights continue to be violated, to be flouted, as they take the painful path to exile. They are particularly vulnerable. I'm thinking again about Afghanistan, where the Taliban regime imposes corporal punishment, degrading punishment, inhuman punishment, and is trampling their rights, all their rights, and seeks to efface them from society and is suffocating their hopes and their dreams. I'm thinking about the 55,000 female refugees from Afghanistan. Thank you.
55 millions.
Sorry, 55 million female refugees. France has a feminist diplomacy, a feminist foreign policy. So they come to settle in France as women in danger. We are particularly focusing on those who are victims of violence and trafficking in human beings. We are establishing this program together with UNHCR. It will allow us to welcome Afghan women first. I'm thinking in particular, as I'm speaking, about Massouma, who is with us today representing France. Please give her a round of applause. Your example demonstrates that sport can be a path towards integration for refugees, and it demonstrates that our country is a welcoming country. So thank you for being with us. This program will allow us to provide better assistance to women who are victims of violence and trafficking and gender-based violence. So we have stepped up coordination between different institutions and associations to provide more effective shelter, to provide emergency shelter and social support and medical support. I'm proud to announce the initiative Avec elles, which means with them, to support refugee women and girls. This initiative calls upon all stakeholders to take specific actions to support these women and girls throughout the whole of their path towards integration in their host country. I call upon all of you to redouble your efforts to commit yourselves to these women and girls so that these persecuted, threatened girls who have been forced to leave their homes can benefit from all of our support. Ladies and gentlemen, last Sunday, together with the President of the Republic in the Chaillot Palace, in the very place where the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was pronounced, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So, a declaration of universal rights. And this declaration should guide us, it should be our compass, and it obliges us today to do more. We must commit ourselves to doing more, to doing what is needed to help those who are fleeing from war, from persecution, to find a dignified place to live in security, in freedom, and, when possible, to return to their homes. High Commissioner, dear Filippo Grandi, the UNHCR, its teams, its women and men, embody this mission. France is with you, and we will stay with you. We will make sure that this forum is a place where we work on the basis of principles to take action for humanity, for all those who need it, alongside them, these men and women. Thank you.
Le programme FAIRE pour permettre à de jeunes réfugiés venant d'arriver en France de rencontrer d'autres réfugiés qui sont déjà établis et de nouer des liens grâce à Agir pour accompagner 4000 réfugiés vers un logement pérenne et un emploi durable. Le programme HOPE, 1 million pour l'UNRWA. La France a appelé lors de cette conférence à une trêve humanitaire durable qui doit conduire à un cessez-le-feu digne, exige non seulement une solution d'hébergement décent et pérenne, mais aussi un accès à l'éducation, à la formation. Nous devons nous mobiliser davantage collectivement pour éliminer la traite des êtres humains par des poursuites d'exil. Plus de 110 millions de personnes avaient été déplacées de force l'an dernier, vous l'avez rappelé, donc un tiers de réfugiés.